Welcome to the January 8th meeting of the Ann Arbor City Council. If you're able, please rise and join us for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk please call the roll of council?
Councilmember Catasopathy?
Here.
Councilmember Bannister?
Here.
Councilmember Westfall?
Here.
Councilmember Lum? Here. Councilmember Grand?
Here.
Councilmember Ackerman? Mayor Taylor?
Here.
Councilmember Eaton?
Here.
Councilmember Crapel?
Here.
Councilmember Warpowski?
Here.
Councilmember Smith?
Present.
We have a quorum.
May I have a motion, please, to approve the agenda? Moved by Councilmember Westfall, seconded by Councilmember Grand. Discussion of the agenda. Councilmember Grand.
There was a possibility that we might have been considering postponing a certain item for the next, that's on next agenda, so I don't know if we can add that in light of a school board meeting that's happening after our next meeting.
Do you have the particulars with respect to
It's for the Rainbow Childcare, and we have a request from trustee Basquette if we could postpone it till after our meeting, given that their meeting is the day after our meeting.
Let's put that as a, we should get that procedure down, Pat, since.
Yeah, sorry about that. I
No,
should have
that's,
looked
no,
it
no,
up.
that was not by way of censure, that was by way of, this seems to be something that we've done once, and we are doing it again fairly recently, so we should figure out, let's put it
Yes,
after
I would
B1.
I would just be remiss if we had all those people come out. If
Absolutely.
We were just going to postpone.
We'll put a motion, there'll be a motion to suspend the rules and then to reconsider the postponement and then amend the postponement at B2. How's that?
Sounds excellent. Thank you.
Awesome. Further discussion of the agenda? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The agenda as amended is approved. Are there communications today from our city administrator?
Yes, Mayor, just very briefly. In addition to the administrator's report, there are 3 other items that we forwarded as communications that follow-up requests from council. And they are a response to supporting Vision Zero implementation and the path forward on the co-produced policing commission. I would also note that there are no agenda question response because we received no agenda questions for this evening. And then finally, I'd just like to thank Officer Justin Merkel for being with us this evening and making sure that things run smoothly.
Excellent. We do have an introduction. Would Ms. Growy please join me at the podium? Excellent. So it is, one of the great attributes of our community is that we have all sorts of, different things that we do in the city, from the municipal organization to affect and to implement our values. But without the nonprofits working in our community to affect those values, feel free to come on and take pictures. No, you're not interrupting anybody. Yeah, it's better portrait rather than landscape for me. All right, that's excellent. I was warned there would be pictures taken, so you're all good. So what was I saying? I was saying nice things about you. I was getting there, wasn't I? So we do great things for the municipal organization, but without our nonprofits, without our resident volunteers doing great work on our city commissions, we would be so much worse off as a community. So many great issues being advocated for day in, day out, and would not be able to be done. And one of those is the great work that's done in our community on behalf of the disabled within our community to ensure that we are vigilant with respect to protecting their rights, to ensure that we're doing everything we can to implement and encourage independent living. And so that's what we're here today, to honor one of the lions of that great effort. And so it is my great pleasure to honor Carolyn Growy. Whereas Carolyn Growy served as an executive leader for the Ann Arbor Center for Independent Living since 2005 and as its executive director and CEO since 2014. And whereas Carolyn has been recognized as an influential leader with expertise in ADA law and issues of mobility and accessibility by local and state elected officials, the Transit Authority, hospitals, schools, and universities. And whereas Carolyn has consulted with elected officials and city administration to select accessible voting devices and provided community-wide training for the Help America Vote Act. And whereas Carolyn has served as an adjunct lecturer for the University of Michigan's School of Social Work, where she has and continues to teach concepts of social justice, social identity, privilege, and oppression to help students gain insights into the realities of individuals living with disabilities. And whereas Carolyn has led disability awareness workshops for more than 14,000 fourth graders in the Ann Arbor Public Schools, for which she has earned a certificate of appreciation. And whereas Carolyn has educated the community about access and inclusion of people with more buses, more places, more often, worked with Parks Department for increased access throughout Ann Arbor, including the Universal Access Playground at Gallup Park, and provided education and access training for Ann Arbor Summer Festival staff, volunteers, and ushers. Now, therefore, I, Christopher Taylor, Mayor of Ann Arbor, do hereby honor Carolyn Growy and proclaim January 8, 2018 as Carolyn Growy Day in the city of Ann Arbor.
The mic is yours.
That could be a dangerous thing, you know.
Well,
First of all, Mayor Taylor, thank you very, very much for bestowing this honor upon me from yourself and the City Council and from the City of Ann Arbor. I have been very, very fortunate that there are so many dedicated individuals here within the city, within our community, within the disability community, within our schools, our hospitals, our Parks Department. Every area of our community has an area of care and concern and compassion, which only can make our job easier when we're working with people with disabilities to also have equal access, opportunity to be involved. And that's what we want. We want people with disabilities to have those same opportunities that everybody else has. There's nothing about us without us, and if we only have part of us, we don't have a whole. We have holes, and we cannot have holes. We can't have holes in our streets, we can't have holes in our bus system, we can't have holes in our schools, we can't have holes in our access to information. We must make sure we have holes with a W, W-H-O-L-E-S, so that we have the whole community included, and we do that when we include everybody with disability. I've been very, very fortunate that I was sitting down and talking with my daughter, letting her know that I was coming. She's in Grand Valley, so she can't be here today. And my son is playing hockey in Austin, Minnesota, so he can't be here today either. But they both are true Ann Arborites through and through, true Go Blue. We are Go Blue family. And we were sitting and just chatting, and within 1 minute, I was able to identify more than 20 different distinct departments and projects that I have had the privilege of being involved with here. And one of the most exciting ones that you were also able to witness take place was when the Universal Access Park opened up. And I was able to see my dear friend Angie be able to participate and get on park equipment herself for the first time, but also be able to play with her child. And being able to do that, that's why I do this work. So as much as you all may like to have me be quiet sometimes, which Ms. Hinman's been trying since I was in second grade to influence, you're probably not going to silence me. So whether I'm in Pensacola or I'm in Ann Arbor, no matter where I may be, I will be fighting for the rights of people with disabilities, and I want to be able to continue to come home to Ann Arbor keep seeing the work that is being done to improve our access, to improve our participation of every community member. I've had the luxury of working with several of you that are here. I've also had the luxury of working with several of you that are in the audience in many different capacities. It is up to each of you to help support and continue the work of the Ann Arbor Center for Independent Living. The Ann Arbor Center for Independent Living works with and on behalf of individuals with disabilities towards their successes at home, at work, at school, in the community. And the only way we can do that is if we as a community come together and make sure that we leave nobody out. We need everybody included. We need funding to be included. We need access to be included. And when that happens, we're able to see those strength in numbers grow. It'll be from whether it be in kindergarten or it be a PhD. It'll be whether you are at the local community clinic or you're at the Mecca at the U or at the other Mecca across town at St. Joe's. It'll be whether you're at the ball field on First or you're at the ball field at Vets. It'll be whether you're at a parking lot that is local or a parking lot garage, and you'll have that access and be able to participate by including everybody. I really want from strength to strength to keep going forward and to see our community continue to have its vibrancy be there. And I'll come back anytime. All you have to do is call, because all of you are my friends, and if you call, I'll be there. Thank you, Mayor.
A pleasure. We now come to public comment reserve time. Public comment reserve time is an opportunity for members of the public to speak to council and the community about matters of municipal interest. To speak at public comment reserve time, one needs to have signed up in advance by contacting our city clerk. Speakers have 3 minutes in which to speak, so please pay close attention to the time clock. As a matter of courtesy, we may have only one person speaking at a time. And finally, if you require assistance in speaking before council, we'd be delighted to provide it to you. Our first speaker today is Lisa Abrams.
Hi, good evening. We have a photo here, is a recent photo of Bird Hills Park Nature and Wildlife Sanctuary. And right next to the sanctuary sign is the city's call notification warning. Do not enter, sharpshooters working. A sanctuary, by definition, is a place of refuge or safety. This photo shows the hypocrisy of this administration and the hypocrisy of this city council. You say Ann Arbor is a sanctuary city, but Bird Hills Park is a sanctuary. And these are empty words, dishonest words, when 250 to 350 deer, innocent deer lives, will be slaughtered in the next 3 weeks. The killing of our deer is going on right now as we speak. And we are sitting here pleasantly, beginning a new year, and looking for ways to fulfill our resolutions. And when it comes down to it, the realities are that there will be blood, guns, violence, and the death of innocent lives. Deer have universal rights to live out their lives. And you are charged with the public policy. And you think you're making the best public policy choices. We understand that. But why can't we be creative like New York City? They are not killing one deer in the entire city of New York. They have 8 million people. And there are deer. There are deer on the north side of Manhattan. There's deer on Staten Island. There's deer in Brooklyn. There are deer everywhere. They aren't killing one. So why can't we be innovative? Why are you taking the old antiquated solution of gun violence? we understand you say it's for the public policy, for the public good, and you rationalize the killing. You say they're deer vehicle collisions, but there were 27 collisions that were accounted for, that were actually police showed up for. The others were just called in without any without any validation. And you also say there's Lyme disease, but there's no Lyme disease. These are all fear. There's so much fear in this policy that you're making. It's fear, fear, fear.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Lorraine Shapiro.
Hello and good evening. Excuse me. This is not a good day for Ann Arbor. This is the day that you, the council, begin the killing of 250 to 350 deer. This is the day that, despite your statements that you do not want to put one species ahead of another, you've chosen yard plants above the deer who are sentient beings. This is the day that, despite the clear public danger, you have chosen to disregard the 450-foot safety barrier between guns and houses. And this is the day that, despite petitions, statements, public comments from a not insignificant section of city residents, you've put killing above other considerations. This is the day that you've also misinformed the public about the locations of deer killing. Today, this morning, I received a city update email which announces the lethal removal of deer in the designated city parks. But what's wrong with this bulletin? What's wrong is that the list that was given is incomplete. It listed the 17 parks, but it omitted a lot of information that's marked with black stars. Most busy people reading the update will accept the information at face value. But if you dig through your website more deeply, you get to this map, which shows that there are many more locations than the 17 parks and nature areas. The 17 starred areas are belonging to the University of Michigan, including the very heavily used Arboretum. Why was that location not mentioned in today's update? This failure to inform the public creates a very dangerous situation. And one of the U of M sites not mentioned is just 400 feet from my front door. Why wasn't this area in your notification today? Clearly, my safety is of no concern to you, and neither is that of the residents around the Mary Beth Doyle Park down here, which is not indicated in any update or map at all. So much for the promised transparency of the process. This is the day that I and others have been outside hoping to see our deer, and we know our deer by how they look, one last time before they are killed. This is the day that I wish I did not live in Ann Arbor. And this is the day you should not be very proud of yourself for your rush to kill and your disregard of public safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there communications from council? Councilmember Lum.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Happy New Year to everyone. There are 3 items I'd like to speak to. And one, Councilmember Grand has touched upon. So I wanted to remind interested Second Ward folks that the site plan for the Rainbow Child Care Facility on Nixon Road is on the agenda for the council meeting next Tuesday, January 16th. As we all know, we had postponed action on this site plan on December 18th at that meeting in order to provide time to follow up on a couple of issues. One was to obtain a position from Clegg School and the Ann Arbor Public Schools on the project and the shared driveway, and the other was to further explore traffic impacts resulting from the project beyond just on Nixon Road and including impacts on Blewett, Renfrew, and Prairie. There were also questions regarding the special exception use process. Each of these information items are critical, obviously, and it's not clear when the Ann Arbor Public Schools will be able to respond. I know that there was the Ann Arbor schools, City School Safety Transportation Committee meeting where I thought this might come up. It was scheduled for tomorrow, has been canceled. And it's also not clear when the supplemental traffic information will be available. So I was going to ask you, Mr. Lazarus, if you could shed any light on the timing of these things that, when this information that we had postponed to obtain will be available.
The site plan review is scheduled for the next council meeting, so we would have provided it before then.
Provide the supplemental traffic information on,
We would have provided whatever we had.
on Blewett, Renfrew, and Prairie. That we had not received that yet. Because one of the requests was to further explore traffic impacts resulting from this project on these streets, and that wasn't included in any of the traffic impact studies that were done up to this point. Also, the questions on special exception use process, and again, to obtain the position from Clegg and the public schools on the use of the shared driveway. My suggestion, and I sense other council members would agree, if it's not available by when the agenda is published on Thursday, we should postpone again, and it sounds like we might reset that date tonight. But I think knowing when all of this information could be available should guide that timing. And then I noticed also that on the preliminary agenda for the 16th, that there's not a public hearing on the child care facility site plan. I do recognize that a public hearing was held on December 18th, but given that there will be new information, presumably I think it would be appropriate to continue the public hearing on the 16th or whenever the item comes to council for a final decision. Can we agree to that? To continue the public hearing?
Well, I think that's a matter that, for council to determine. I mean, if the public hearing
Okay,
was,
then I'll follow
if
up
the
on that.
public hearing
because-
was closed, then,
Right, but I'm just saying that there's going to be new information that we've requested, and given that, assuming we're going to get that new information, I'm suggesting that it would be appropriate to continue the public hearing on the 16th or whenever it comes back to us.
so if I could, what I'd recommend, since it's a fairly strong likelihood that the agenda item is going to be postponed from the next meeting, that we'll respond to your questions prior to that, and we'll have the opportunity to discuss whether the public meeting should be reopened at that point.
Public hearing.
Public hearing, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
All right, and my second item is the DTE ITC transmission line project and the related curb cut proposed on Huron Parkway. Approving that curb cut was also postponed at our last meeting, and I have a question about the process for the curb cut decision and a comment about your memo, Mr. Administrator, that we received Friday regarding coordinating the Nixon Road projects. Council has a work session scheduled for Friday morning with DTE and ITC, but the subject there is different. It's to review the southern power project plan along State Street and not the new Apex substation at Huron Parkway and Hubbard or the curb cut. Can someone please comment on whether the work session Friday will cover the Apex substation and transmission line project as well, or if that will be the subject of another meeting? Because if the plan is to cover both, we need to make sure there's adequate time allotted for the new substation project and curb cut, and I don't think just allocating a few minutes at the end will be sufficient. So I'm wondering, what's the thinking on that?
I think you'll have the people there who can respond to the questions that you have. So I'll follow up with DTE and check the length of their presentation, try and make sure that you have adequate time to answer all of your questions.
Okay, thanks. And finally, I want to express my frustration and disappointment with the administrator's memo sent Friday indicating there would be no coordination of the DTE transmission line project and the Nixon Corridor Traffic Improvement Project. Back in May, Council approved a resolution to coordinate the projects. Council also approved a budget amendment then adding the design costs for the corridor project to the fiscal year 18 budget so that the project could be expedited and we could mitigate the disruption in the area. Friday, we find out that coordinating the projects isn't possible, that the design of the corridor improvements that has already begun won't be finished until mid-2019, almost 2 years for design, and find out that we really have no idea when construction will take place, if ever. This is really not acceptable or fair to the poor folks in the Nixon area. We approved 2 massive residential projects, Nixon Farms and Woodbury Club, without adequate infrastructure in place. When we do that, several council members acknowledge that something would need to be done, and the mayor says, and I quote, "This is an area that will need to be fixed, period," end quote. How do we handle it? We have multiple uncoordinated projects disrupting traffic flow over several years. The intersection, then the transmission line project, then the corridor improvements, and the residential units are being constructed as we speak, and council is about to approve yet another development project on Nixon, the child care facility, that adds even more traffic. How much is enough for these poor folks in the Nixon area? We should never again subject our residents to something as poorly planned and coordinated as what has happened along Nixon Road. The lesson learned must be that infrastructure is in place before developments are allowed to proceed. With Lower Town, we are at least thinking about supporting infrastructure before the construction commences. While that's better than Nixon, it's still not the right sequence. We can't let our zeal for new tax revenue trump the requirement that the necessary supporting infrastructure is in place first. And I appreciate that some of my colleagues, especially Councilmember Ackerman, are now recognizing that imperative. Thanks for listening and for allowing me to vent a bit.
Further communication from council. Councilmember Grand.
As the representative to the Greenbelt Commission, I just want to congratulate Ruth Thornton and the Greenbelt program on receiving over $1 million as a part of the USDA NRCS grant. The city was the lead partner, and it will help us leverage funds, and actually it guarantees that we can get at least 50% of funds towards a number of purchases. And it's a great way to leverage our funds and work in partnership with the county and Legacy Land Conservancy and the Southeast Michigan Land Conservancy as well. So congratulations to Ruth for her excellent work, again, in leveraging a tremendous amount of money for the Greenbelt.
Further communication from council. I would like to request confirmation of the following nominations that were presented at the December 18, 2017 regular session for your consideration. To the Downtown Development Authority, Jessica Letaw. To the Huron River Watershed Council, Richard Norton. May I have a motion, please? Moved by Councilmember Smith, seconded by Councilmember Crapo. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It is approved. I would like to recommend the following nominations for your consideration to the Board of Review Panel 2, Kurt Zell. Moving on through the consent agenda, we now come to a public hearing. Public hearing number 1. Public hearings are opportunities for members of the public to speak to council and the community about specific items on the agenda. To speak at a public hearing, you need not have signed up in advance, but your speech must relate to the specific agenda item. Speakers will have 3 minutes in which to speak, so please pay close attention to the time clock. As a matter of courtesy, we may have only one person speaking at a time. And finally, if you require assistance in speaking before council at a public hearing, we'd be delighted to provide it to you. Public hearing number 1, an ordinance to amend the code of the City of Ann Arbor by adding a new chapter, which new chapter shall be designated as Chapter 6, Procedures for Removal of Council Members of Title I of said code. Is there anyone who would like to speak at this public hearing?
Hi, my name is Edward Vilmetti. Excuse me. I can't say I'm in favor of this change to the city code. The process of removing a democratically elected member of council by a non-democratic method doesn't strike me as a particularly good one. It strikes me as something that in a different climate could be used as a political weapon. And I would just as soon see a hole in our city code waiting for a better approach to this than to fill this hole, which I guess is required by the city charter, but fill it with something that might come back to haunt us in years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak at this public hearing? Seeing no one, this public hearing is closed. We have before us the regular session meeting minutes of December 18, 2017. May I have a motion, please, to approve the minutes? Moved by Councilmember Ackerman, seconded by Councilmember Westfall. Discussion of the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The minutes are approved. B1, an ordinance to amend the code of the city of Ann Arbor by adding a new chapter, which new chapter shall be designated as Chapter 6, Procedures for Removal of Council Members of Title I of said code. Moved by Councilmember Smith, seconded by Councilmember Crapel. Discussion, please, of B1. Councilmember Kalasapov.
Since we have been working on this over 2 years, I would like to respond and, I don't know if respond is the right term, to Mr. Wilmete's position taken on this. I look at it as not having double standards in terms of when people do the wrong thing, misbehavior or inappropriate behavior. For example, at the national level, I mean, we have all heard legal arguments. I'm not a lawyer, but how a sitting president cannot be indicted. That is sometimes interpreted to say the president is above the law, which is very problematic in a country where every institution, everything is subject to checks and balances. And here in the city too, I feel with the police oversight, we are saying that there has to be, police cannot police themselves. There has to be another body that if there is problems, that residents can go to. So I just feel having the, this is very essential that city council members, the city council doesn't have a double standard, that we too have to have code of conduct, ethics, and our standards. And the other issue is, starting next year, the term is increased to 4 years. So if residents feel that somebody misbehaved, let's say 4 months after the elections, being elected, they would have to wait another 3 years and 8 months for that council member to be replaced. Otherwise, we are putting an undue burden on the residents to collect the number of signatures to recall that council members. I mean, at least when it was 2 years, the period is shorter. So I think personally that the 4-year term makes this even more relevant. So these are some of the reasons I think we should be looking in this direction instead of having that gaping hole where we are not ready to move to have standards for us to on code of conduct. Thank you.
Further discussion? Councilmember Lum.
Yeah, I support this. I'd just like to thank the Rules Committee for taking the time to discover this oversight mission and then to address it. These efforts of the Rules Committee certainly don't get much attention or recognition, and that's unfortunate. It is another one of those, say, thankless tasks that can be important, however. This specific ordinance, I do think, does seem thorough and reasonable, both in terms of substance and process, and I appreciate, again, the efforts of the Rules Committee and the Attorney's Office for drafting it. The causes for removal seem appropriate. I will just say, though, one cause for removal is conviction of any provision of state or city election laws. It's just not clear, but reason would would, I think, guide us, hopefully. But if there are minor glitches or violations in filling out things like, I don't know, campaign finance reform, campaign finance forms, if that constitutes a, a quote-unquote conviction of any provision of state or city election laws, technically it is, but I, assume that, we're not, that a minor thing like that wouldn't be interpreted as a cause for removal. But again, this, in terms of substance and process, I think this is reasonable and thorough. Thanks.
Further discussion? Councilmember Westfall and Grant.
Thank you. I'll just add my thanks to the Attorney's Office and to the whole Rules Committee. As has been said, I hope this is, I hope we can file this under one of those never need to use categories, but it certainly would be good to have in the very unlikely event that it needs to be, that it would actually play a role. So I think it was worth a discussion and worth having if it turns out to be something that's not optimal, and that it's, I'm sensitive to the feedback that we got, and I certainly I understand that recalls are a great tool to have, and they can be effective, but it is a big burden, and certainly if there's any inkling that something like this would be used improperly, we would modify it or remove it. So thanks for everybody keeping an eye on it.
Councilmember Grant.
Thank you. Thank you to the Rules Committee for bringing this forward. I just wanted to respond to a question that I did get from the community regarding if this was in response to a particular action by a particular council member, and my response was that it's in a time when we're not dealing with a particular action from a particular council member is the time to bring forth rules like this, so that we're not trying to make up things as we go. So I appreciate that there is quite a high bar in both the rules and in particular, as Councilmember mentioned, in the process. But this isn't, in response to us trying to make up rules. As Councilmember Kalasapati said, this was a long process. And so I think it's a great time to bring this forward.
Further discussion? I'm delighted, too, that this is coming forward, and I think Councilmember Grant identified it well, that we are doing this at a time when this is a prudential action. It's a prudential action that I'm glad that the Rules Committee addressed and the council members taking care of now. It's also something that former Councilmember Peterson, who's in the audience tonight, was prompting during the course of of that particular form of her service when she was here at this table. This is something that we as a council needed for some time. We needed to have ethics rules in place, gift rules in place, and the like, and we do have them now. And they need to have an ordinance that provides a structure for folks who have concerns about the actions of council members with respect to those rules. I think the ordinance that we have before us today provides an effective structure, provides an effective forum for people to have their concerns addressed, and I'm glad that we're moving it forward. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It is approved. B2, something from Councilmember Grant. So I suppose the procedure for this is that we postpone the do we have the name
Rainbow
for the?
Child Care Facility Site Plan.
Repeat, please.
Rainbow Child Care Facility
So
Site
at our
Plan.
last meeting, we postponed the Rainbow Child Care Facility Site Plan to the meeting upcoming, to the second
January
meeting
16.
in January 16. What I think we're going to do now is vote to, we've put the reconsideration on the agenda. I guess we'd move to have suspend council rules so as to be able to properly, to suspend council rules to reopen the postponement prior to the designated date of postponement. So,
Moved.
and then, yes, and then So what?
We
Oh,
have to
so this is
suspend the
well,
rules first.
No one voted there, okay, so this is, I guess, this is a reconsideration.
Don't we have to suspend,
No, so we have a.
move to reconsider?
Yes, this is a motion to thank you. This is much simpler, I guess, than my
English?
tortured brain had put it
No,
together.
it's okay.
I think Councilmember Grand is bringing forward a motion to reconsider the Rainbow
Childcare
Childcare
Facility Site Plan.
Reset.
Postponement.
Seconded by Councilmember Ackerman. Discussion of the motion to reconsider. Councilmember Grand, you stole the floor.
Thank you. So I brought this forward after receiving a communication from trustee Basket from the Ann Arbor School Board that Board of Education is not meeting until January 17th. We had postponed this site plan vote to our meeting on the 16th, and she requested so that they could actually get back to us, which was the point of the postponement, or one of the important pieces of the postponement was to be able to hear from Clegg and from the Board of Education. Since they're not meeting till the 17th, they asked if there were no dire consequences, could we give them a little more time? So it seems prudent to me not to ask folks to come out for a hearing and a vote and have them come out instead a few weeks later.
Councilmember Ackerman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councilmember Grand. So I'm supportive of this. I think it's reasonable that if the school board doesn't get to speak in its entirety until the 17th, we should give them enough time to discuss and deliberate and get back to us. I don't think there's any representative from community services area here tonight, but if Mr. Lazarus could have them use all of the sign-in lists from the planning process to get back in touch with residents who may be concerned that this will be coming back on the 5th of February instead of the 16th of January. I'm sure people would appreciate not making 2 trips out to City Hall.
Councilmember Grand, Lum on the motion to
Thanks.
reconsider.
Before we set a date, February 5th, I would just like to reconfirm that, because when we postponed it on the December 18th, we postponed it to obtain a position from Clegg School and the Ann Arbor Public Schools on the project and the use of the shared driveway. And subsequent to our meeting on December 18th, some of us did hear from Clegg School Principal Carter that they had no information about the shared use of the driveway. So I'm assuming that at the public school board meeting on the 16th, or I'm sorry, on the 17th, that will be clarified. But we also postponed it, again, I said this at the outset, to further explore traffic impacts resulting from the project beyond just Nixon Road, including impacts on Blewett, Nixon, and Prairie. That's not occurred. And then there were also questions regarding, which I assume we could get answers to, the special exception use process. And as you know, there was potentially, as the 2 speakers who came to the December 18th meeting noted, I think they both noted, at least we were made aware of it, they're considering an appeal of the special exception use, a legal appeal of that, so hence those questions. So if by February 5th, that can all be accomplished, fine. And also, again, that issue of the public hearing. 'Cause we had 2 speakers on the 18th. We've received a petition.
I guess I'll just pop in on the issue of the public hearing if I can. I would expect, as we always do, when we have a site plan before us, if there is if it comes back to us on a postponement,
We'll continue.
there is a public hearing that's continued. If there
Okay,
has been a
great.
change in the underlying matter, then then
Good.
the slate is clean. If there's no change in the underlying site plan, as I don't anticipate there will be here, then
Right.
I will caution people that it's technically the one public hearing, but if the spirit moves someone to speak, then that's the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
Councilmember Kalasapathy.
Since we are asking staff to give us information regarding the impact on not just Nixon, but also those
These other
neighborhoods,
streets.
Blewett and Prairie
And
all
Renfrew.
And Renfrew.
Right.
Yeah. So I just feel like when we have additional information, and these are neighborhood streets. I mean, people actually live on both sides of these streets. So these are, I think it's very important that the neighborhood, we do open up the public hearing, because now we're expanding the information what we have, and for the people to respond. I think it's really important. And yeah, for me too, it's not as much as fixing the date for the next, when we are postponing this, but I think it's important to make sure that staff can give us the feedback whether this can be done or not. It's not a matter of just, this is what we have, so let's have the public hearing, but what we are saying, this is what we need in order to make an informed, and I'm not going to rant about this, but yeah, I mean, it has been extremely frustrating in our part of, I live in the northeast part, of streets being blocked off, and somebody asked me like 2 weeks ago, the corner of the roundabout, the sidewalk had been laid, and then it was ripped up last week when ITC came, and I mean, yeah, I mean, it's just very embarrassing for me when residents treat us like we are clueless. So I think it will be very good to be a little more thoughtful about doing these things instead of just jumping the gun. Thank you.
Councilmember Westfall.
Thank you. I'm supportive of the postponement. I'm glad that there's a more robust conversation happening at the school district level. I'm not sure if this communication was shared with all of council, but I just for everybody's awareness that it appears that our notification process was fulfilled, you know, in matter of course of this petition prior to the Planning Commission meeting. I suppose there's a possibility that there was some internal communication issue within the AAPS organization where it did not get maybe to the people who it should have gotten to. But I guess I'm most concerned about the type of information we're asking for, and I want to make sure we're specific about that, and whether it's above and beyond the level of analysis that is required for other site plans, or are we asking for more, and what exactly the scope is and who's doing it. So I guess that's one. And the other is if someone could explain a little bit around what the feedback from AAPS actually means. They have a legal agreement with this property owner, which they need to work out among themselves. I don't know if they've made a final determination of whether the proposal complies with their understanding of that shared driveway, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, we want to hear input from everybody. Of course, I'm wondering if somebody can help me understand what the input from AAPS would mean, given that they have control over this easement.
So I can explain my understanding. So when the Planning Commission was presented with the relevant information, including some of the things the council has asked to see, they approved the special exception use. By doing that, in essence, this becomes a by right development. The notification was sent to Clegg Middle School. I spoke with Superintendent Swift last week. She's asked that on future projects that impact a public school property that we also send it to their facilities branch centrally, which we are going to do going forward. One of the things that I am not certain of right now that was not presented at the time the special exception use was presented to the Planning Commission is whether or not a separate easement is required for a sanitary sewer connection. If that is in fact the case, then the project can't go forward unless the school district provides that, that other easement. I'm not sure if that's true or not. They bought an old church property. The church at some point was connected to city utilities, so I'm not sure at this point why there would be another sanitary sewer connection needed, so that's something that we're looking into as well. Appeal of the special exception use is a legal matter, not something that we can address. I understand the concern that was raised that according to some parties, that the easement that went with the property was that it was a compatible use, that it didn't interfere, and there's some concern that because churches met on Sundays and the daycare center is at the same time the school starts, I think that's the basis of what the public schools are going to look at, but again, that's their issue, really not ours at this point. We will certainly, as Ms. Lum asked for, provide all the information that we have and we can to facilitate a council discussion. But if it is in effect a by right development, I think the remedies offered to council are limited, and I deferred to city attorney at the time to discuss those. But that's my understanding of where we are right now. Again, if there is an additional easement required, then that by itself could prevent the project from going forward should the school district not grant it.
And with regard to the traffic information, I guess there was, I think what we heard from Mr. Delacourt at the last meeting was that, I guess, some amount of preliminary information was given to the Planning Commission, and then there was additional information that came after. Is that package of stuff that is what's going to be provided to us, or is additional study going to be done on additional streets that are not normally in the scope of site plan review?
We'll provide whatever it is that was presented to the Planning Commission, and if we received anything after that, we'll provide that as well. But we're not going to go out and do additional traffic studies, if that's your question. That should have been something that was asked of the developer at the time they went before the Planning Commission.
Thank you.
Councilman Lum?
If I could follow up. Okay, to hear you say this, Mr. Lazarus, that it's not going to be provided, when we postponed this on December 18th, it was also one of the expectations was to further explore traffic impacts resulting from this project beyond just Nixon Road, and specifically the impacts on Blewett, Renfrew, and Prairie, and nothing was stated at the time that we couldn't do that until this minute. You're saying that was not part of the traffic impact study that the developer provided, and one of the concerns, which is I think might be one of the contributing factors to this potential legal challenge of the special exception use approval, was the fact that the Planning Commission approved the site plan and the special exception use prior to having an approved traffic impact study. The traffic impact study was approved after the Planning Commission approved the site plan and the special exception use. So that's one issue, and that's why there were questions about the special exception use process. That is unusual. And highly unusual. And the data that the developer's traffic impact study utilized was the same data that was compiled for the Nixon corridor improvement study. And again, why, so none of these adjacent streets that folks feel would be most impacted. They are now. I invite all of my colleagues to check out Clague Street any given morning, Monday through Friday. Just check it out. And check it out at school dismissal time. Also, while you're there, check out Blewett and look what's occurring on Blewett. With this site plan, it was noted, I saw it written in a report somewhere, that overflow could utilize Blewett. Well, just check out Blewett too. Hence these concerns about the traffic impacts on these streets that have not been looked at. So I can tell you, I'm going to be looking for that, and if that information isn't provided, then I'm sorry, this isn't ready for prime time, in my view. Thanks.
Let me suggest this. I think what I hear are a set of questions that people have that can certainly be delivered to staff in the next day or two, so that they can provide us what it is that council members are looking for, but I also hear consensus as to the desire to reconsider this matter, and then I assume postpone it to the first meeting in February. So let me see if we have any further questions on the actual issue of whether they're going to reconsider, which is the motion that we have before us. Are there further discussion on the motion to reconsider itself? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are now reconsidering. The motion that we're reconsidering is Resolution 17-1726, that is to say the Rainbow Child Care Site Plan, 2600 Nixon Road. May I have a motion, please? I assume to postpone to the first meeting in February, moved by Councilmember Westfall, seconded by Councilmember Lum. So we have a motion to postpone it to the first meeting in February, and I guess a request that if you have questions or data that you're looking for, to communicate that to staff promptly so that they can get you what they need, or if that's not gettable, let you know that as soon as they can. Hoping that we can move to a vote on this, but nevertheless, Councilmember Westfall.
I don't know if it's appropriate to ask any feedback from the attorney's office on this. I want as much data as possible on every site plan. I guess I want to be sure that if we ask for something that is beyond the customary or legal scope of what we are required to see or allowed to see in evaluating a site plan and its impact on intersections, if that is able to be considered in our decision. So,
I guess my suggestion would be that you include a question to the attorney's office to that effect.
okay.
Councilor Lum.
I am speaking to the postponement, and I will send in a memo with my questions, but I will just note that that these issues are the same issues and questions that were raised on December 18th. And again, that was given as the rationale for postponement then, but I will reiterate that in writing. And I will just say, it's been my experience that, when traffic impact studies are done, council's not usually consulted, and I doubt planning commissioners are consulted on what intersections need to be looked at, what adjacent streets. It's staff-driven, but also, it just depends. There's no set model for, how many intersections you might include, how large of an area you'll look at. For all the developments that have surfaced over the years, and this goes back to the 90s, for that property behind Arborland, and the most recent approved project there was South Pond Village. That was a big one. We did a Ben-Hur of a traffic impact study for that, and we looked at intersections, various intersections on Washington, on Huron Parkway, and Huron River Drive, and basically anything that encompassed that whole chunk of land, and it just varies, from site to site, and I don't think there's a legal. That was never provided or presented, in my experience, a legal rationale to, for, here, we're gonna look at, so X number of intersections, streets, whatever, it's case by case, really, I think. So, thank you. I certainly support postponement. I hope we can have all the information that's been requested in time, and that we extend the public hearing, of course.
Councilmember Kalasapati.
Yeah, again, whether it's a legal or a more contextual analysis, what streets, because, till last year, my younger son was at Clegg, and when he misses the school bus, guess who has to drop him off? So I have experience standing there at Bluard for 3-4 minutes. You just don't get to turn right onto Nixon. Then immediately, Bluard becomes the back road, everybody. So I just feel like it's arbitrary if you're just going to look at the impact on Nixon, because when Nixon gets blocked, Bluard becomes the alternate route. People turn around and they start going on to Plymouth Road through the back road. So I can't see how it can be that you can only look at Nixon. So I do urge my colleagues to go there, especially in the mornings. It's a mess. Thank you.
Further discussion? All in favor of the motion postponed to the first meeting in February? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 1726 is postponed to the first meeting in February. We have no ordinances on first reading, we have no motions, we have no further issues from boards or commissions, nor issues from staff. Do we have communications today from the city attorney's office?
We do not.
The suspense was killing me. Clerk's report of communications, petitions, and referrals. May I have a motion, please? Moved by Councilor Ackerman, second by Councilor Grand. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It is approved. We now come to public comment general time. Public comment general time is an opportunity for members of the public to speak to council and the community about matters of municipal interest. To speak at public comment general time, one need not have signed up in advance. Speakers have 3 minutes in which to speak, so please pay close attention to the time clock. As a matter of courtesy, we may have only one person speaking at a time. And finally, if you require assistance in speaking before council, we'd be delighted to provide it to you. Is there anyone who would like to speak at public comment?
Hi, my name is Edward Vilmetti. I'd like to relate that I tried to review the activities of the Council Rules Committee over the past 2 years to see if I could just read up on what their plans had been and what they had done and the background of the expulsion changes to City Council, to the City Code, and went to Legistar to look up the minutes for this meeting and found that for the last 2-3 years, there have been no minutes published. You know, I've harassed and harangued and complained and reported on minutes being missing, and I know that things have gotten better, but Councilman Lum's statement that certain activities of council don't get very much notice is in part because council doesn't provide much notice. I have gotten announcements of these meetings. I've never gone to one of them, in part because the announcements, as stated, simply say that they're going to discuss council rules. No more than that. Completely open for whatever they are. So there's no agenda posted, no minutes posted. So if council wants to conduct business that way, it's perfectly within their rights to do that, but a FOIA request has been sent in. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak at public comment?
Jim Mogensen. I initially came to honor Carolyn Crawley and her service at the Center for Independent Living. But I also want to take the opportunity of a short council meeting to make some comments about what I've seen about the crosswalk law. As you know, it went through the Transportation Committee, and I've been a little bit out of the loop, and I wasn't able to go to those meetings. But I continue to be a little bit concerned about the crosswalk law. I was the first person to yield for someone when it was first passed, when the crosswalk, I yielded for former council member Mike Anglin as we were leaving the meeting. There were a number of things that were passed, and nobody knew about them, and we kind of joked about how. One of the things that and one of my principles is that the laws of physics override the laws of people, and it can be dangerous. And I used to live in Northeast Ann Arbor, and after the law was passed, initially the police chief was rear-ended on Plymouth Road, and then my mother was intentionally rammed by a delivery person because she was yielding for people getting off the bus, and the actual bus driver had to pull over and intervene, and I mean, it was an interesting situation. Time has moved on, but still, we kind of assume that everybody kind of knows more than I think people do know. Now I live on Packard. And when I leave tonight, I will go through the gauntlet of crosswalks as I go up Packard. And the problem, and so what we think is happening, right? Everybody follows the rules, but obviously that's not true, right? I live on Packard. People theoretically follow the speed limit, but if it were not rush hour and I took a radar gun and started, nobody goes 35, right? It's just not reality. And that's not exactly how the crosswalk law is actually working in practice. You know, there are a couple of people, I had a regular meeting one night, and there was a student who, on her phone, walked just not looking, right, kept on going across every day. I mean, it was her usual routine, right? And I knew it was coming, and we all stopped. But eventually, someone is going to get hit. And as this has happened, people did get hit. And one can make the argument that they got hit because of the change in the crosswalk law. I want pedestrian safety. I'm in favor of pedestrians. I want there to be more pedestrian. It's not that I think that cars override the rights of pedestrians. That's not the point. The point is that it's dangerous and people can get hurt. And so that's the problem that I find with this, is that the reality of how it's actually being done, if you actually had police officers on Packard, that's not how it works. It's like roundabouts, how theoretically everybody doesn't speed through it. That's not how it works, right? When it was first put up, the Packard and Dixon, it was, you know, like honking all day long. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak at public comment?
Hi, my name is Dan McNevich. I'm here because I submitted an application for the Housing and Human Services Advisory Board. And part of my story of my time in Ann Arbor has been that I came and I started living in the student co-ops in the ICC, which I know you're an alum of. And it was great. It was cheap. And I think that, so part of my interest in that advisory board is that I think there's something that the city could look at in terms of an approach to addressing affordable housing and looking at zoning ordinances as they're applied to student co-ops and whether or not they're restricting any potential for the ICC to, in particular, or any student cooperative organization to expand and, you know, grow. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak at public comment? Seeing no one, public comment is closed. Do we have communications today from council? Do we have a closed session today?
There's no need for a closed session today.
May I have a motion, please, to adjourn? Moved by Councilmember Ackerman, second by Councilmember Westfall. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are adjourned.